Good evening and welcome to My Future. I'm Ruveneko. In tonight's episode, we continue in our series about STEM education, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics, an initiative recently reintroduced by our Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development. Now back in the studio after last week, we have Engineer Ganda. He is the Director for Research, Development and Innovation in the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you for joining us. So, what's the latest? What's the update with STEM? How is it going?
STEM is going on very well. We have had a great response from students and parents, of course, inquiring on behalf of students. And we have had a very good response. Particularly as schools have opened for A-level now, getting to open, a lot more students have been coming, and I can tell you safely that we have, as of today, we had paid over 600 students who had, parents were paid in advance before the schools opened, and we've actually refunded them. And also we have forms that are processing close to 1,000 now. So I can safely tell you that the response has been great, and I'm sure that we'll surpass our target.
Now, I did come across this notification around the ZIMDEF funding, where parents that had paid, as you said, are having the opportunity to get their money paid back to them.
Yes.
So you say that's about 600 students whose parents had paid in advance.
Yes.
That you are refunding.
Yes.
How's this process happening?
Well, what happens is that if a student had paid in advance, or the parents had paid in advance, what they have to do is take the application form together with the receipts from the respective school where they paid the fees and the student is enrolled, and then they take that to ZIMDEF offices nearest to them. And we have them in Harare, Mutare, Gweru and Bulawayo. And also in the provinces, we've got officers who are stationed there who are receiving the forms, our science and technology officers. They're also receiving provinces where there are no ZIMDEF offices and bring them to where we've got centers where they are processed, and then the refunds are processed. And
is this process running smoothly? Are there parents that have actually had their money paid back?
Of course, but we're paying the refunds to the schools.
Yeah.
Because
so it goes through the schools and the parents get the money.
Yes, from the school.
From ZIMDEF.
If the parents, what happens is that the money is paid by ZIMDEF to the school where the student paid, and then the school will organize the refund to the student. Yeah.
Okay, so people that are not getting this information are obviously disadvantaged. What would you say has been your success regarding getting the whole country aware of STEM? Are you getting the information to everybody?
We have tried, I think, through the media campaign to reach all parts of the country, but we do realize that, of course, we sometimes miss some people, and we have augmented the media campaign that we have been having with our officers, science and technology officers in the provinces, going to the various schools to give the forms, because say the schools where the students are, where they register. So we have had them going around to the schools in the provinces to ensure that we don't miss out anybody. And of course, when they've encountered some students who are not aware, and immediately as they got aware, we gave them the forms, and they're certainly now applying to be in the program.
Now, of the 1,000 students you say have registered so far, to your knowledge, where are most of them from? Most
of the students, because the information earlier got to the students in the urban areas, but also because if a student is in the urban areas, they most likely have near access to the ZIMDEF office. Those are the majority of students. But now with the campaign to go into the provinces and to the schools in the rural areas, we are now having more and more forms coming through from those areas.
Now, a lot of the campaign specifies enrollment for 2016.
Yes.
And if it is a time, as you said, when the results just came out for O-level, and we are trying to get as many STEM students registered as possible right now, by the time the information reaches some children in the rural areas, will it not be too late to start on these STEM subjects?
We believe that, the A-level school term, most schools started this week. And so we don't think that they will miss too much. But in most of the cases, what you would find is parents would enroll the students and probably paid some deposit and promised to pay later. That's, our parents treasure education, and most of them, that's what they do. So by us coming in now to say we are paying the fees, obviously we pay the full amount, and the parents are relieved, and obviously they'll get a refund for whatever they would have paid. So we believe it's not too late. And naturally, A-level, you can change combination, normal second term. So we feel that there is enough time for the students to make a decision within the period which will be accepting applications, which is up to the end of the first term.
Sure. I think there does need to be more penetration in terms of communication. There are some people that I work with, not necessarily here, but those that have not heard anything about STEM, and they are struggling to get their loved ones into A-level, but they don't know about this advantage. So maybe there needs to be an attempt to maybe go to churches or, different mediums that people would be exposed to, not just radio and television and print.
Well, I think we would want to explore how we can improve in terms of access to the general populace, and we will be, for example, now trying to make sure that churches that have got schools, we approach the diocese and give them the forms and relay the information, which they can also relate through their formal church structures. This is a strategy that we have adopted, but you would want to know that we had a very short time to launch this campaign, and obviously the other forms of communication that we would want to use in future as we improve the communication to the general populace, including social media, electronic media. Some people don't listen to radio, TV, but they are on online a lot, and they read newspapers online, and we'll be improving in terms as we go on.
So are you paying any mind to how many young girls register for STEM, or not really? You would just like to see more young Zimbabweans register for STEM? At
the moment, because we're paying for everybody, we're saying of these 8,697 students there who passed with a C or better in the pure sciences at O level, who can qualify to do them at A level. We want everybody, so we don't mind, because there it's all boys and girls mixed. But of course, going forward, we would want to encourage more females to take up sciences, to make sure that they are role models. I mean, like we've said, the issue is really about perception. And as long as there are no role models to be able to demystify this perception that sciences are hard and therefore for men only, they will drop them at Form 3, Form 4, which is the critical stage in terms of the value chain of producing these possible graduates who take up this at university.
Sure. All right, well, there you have it. We have Engineer Ganda in studio talking to us about STEM. We'll get into more in just a moment. Stay tuned. This is My Future. We'll be right back. Welcome back to My Future. I'm Refunds in studio this evening with Engineer Ganda, who is representing the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development. He is the Director for Research, Development and Innovation. Now, we were touching on the gender aspect just before the break, but I think you have answered that. But I want to move on now to the bigger picture.
Yes.
I believe that in the AU, there are some African countries like Kenya that are contributing 1% of their GDP toward the development of science in their countries. What is Zimbabwe doing beyond the STEM initiative?
I think the STEM is really to improve on the human capital side of the skills that you need to be able to do science. You would want to know, Refunds, that for you to be able to do science, which is research, and also develop new technologies and innovate, you first need the skills. And these are the people that we're trying to increase in terms of number, because not all of them will go on to be innovators and researchers. Some of them will want to go and be maintaining, managing industries, technological industries, and all careers in sciences. So for us to be able to put resources, you need the skills. And in our case, we have lost a lot of our skills. Our researchers have left the country. Most of our young researchers have left the country. And so you generally have in the country a trend of that most of our institutions, they've got aging researchers. These are experienced researchers, but they need upcoming researchers that they train and mentor. And at the moment, we don't have those. So before we even talk about committing 1% of GDP towards research, we need to make sure that we've got the right skills. And at the moment, we've got the shortage in many areas. In the last couple of years, at some point, we saw in the press, the University of Zimbabwe indicated that the Department of Metallurgy, for example, had one lecturer left. Of course, the institution has improved now. So you can then talk about funding, putting 1% of GDP into research to value add minerals when you have got very few members of staff, and probably some may not have the necessary skills that they require. So we want to have the skills, and then we put in money. But certainly we have had other initiatives that we've been working on, not to the level of 1% of GDP. Like you've given the example of Kenya. But we want to have the skills first, and then we pour money into research.
This is interesting you touch on skills. Some of the comments on Twitter came in saying that government should be focusing more on vocational training as opposed to STEM. Do you feel that the two go hand in hand, or is vocational training something that completely divorces itself from a student in a science lab focusing on maths, physics, chemistry, and biology?
Vocational education is education that you provide to people who do not have the necessary qualifications to go into tertiary education or university education, but they are skilled, and so you provide facilities for them to be able to train in various trades.
I don't know if that's entirely true. My understanding of vocational training was that it is supposed to be offered in schools throughout childhood development, so that we have the option to have a career using our skills or in an office, for example.
Well,
so maybe to say that it's a solution for those that couldn't enter university.
Yeah, vocational, the definition you've given, is what we're calling psychomotor skills,
right,
that you want to give to students,
right,
when they are going through their education, so that they can discover areas that they're good at. And but in terms of vocational education in the country, when you talk about a vocational college, and we've got them under the Ministry of Youth, you'll find those ones, they normally cater for school leavers who have failed to enter into universities. But they're a very important part of our skills matrix in the country.
I think on the skills aspect, another comment came in on Twitter saying that we are actually just fueling the brain drain that we already exist in as Zimbabweans, where Zimbabweans are going to be trained. Those that are going to take up these STEM subjects are going to then need jobs. They're going to need to make a life after they've gone through these qualifications, whether they go beyond A-level or take it all the way to tertiary. Now the question is, do we as Zimbabwe have the place for them to go to? Do we have work? Do we have opportunities for them? Or are we simply going to say goodbye to yet another generation of young, educated Zimbabweans?
When you look at STEM careers, these are shortage areas. We need more doctors, we need more engineers, because we have lost them. But when you look at the global situation in terms of STEM skills, those are highly mobile skills where people move a lot. And you want to understand, one of the issues about globalization is that it's about skills mobility. And you cannot stop skills mobility, because when you're training a young person these days, you're training a global citizen. And so with that realization, we cannot say by educating these citizens or educating for other countries. We have to look at them as an important national resource. Wherever someone goes at work, at some point they want to come back home. But not only that,
so you're agreeing that they might leave?
They might leave, and some will leave, and we can't argue about that.
So and we are training them for other nations. It's
not a bad thing for them to leave, when they go out there, they get new skills. Right. When they come back, they've got skills that we need.
If they come back.
If they come back.
Right.
And we have to make sure that our people are exposed, and those that want to go out there and gain new skills and come back and help us, we need them. All successful countries that they have moved from agro-based economies, resource-based economies to technologically developed economies. You look at Japan. Japan had to send lots of its citizens to the United States of America to go and land there, to go and work there, and they moved back to Japan. China has done that in a big way. If you go to any university right now, top universities, most of their PhD and master students are Chinese. And they go there, they work in America, but they come back home.
So what's the incentive for a young Zimbabwean who has the skills that they've acquired through STEM? What's the incentive, first of all, for them to stay in Zimbabwe? Because we've already established that there might not be job opportunities. So what's the incentive for them to come back if we can't even get them to stay?
No, in terms of staying, like I've said, STEM areas are shortage areas.
Yes.
So we have skill shortage in those areas. But you want to know that Zimbabweans are natural enterprising people. You will not find a young Zimbabwean these days who will tell you, I want to work for the rest of my life. And STEM is about work. The student gets the student finishes, graduates, goes and gets experience somewhere, locally or regionally. But every young Zimbabwean you meet knows that you have to be innovative.
But we know you have
your own business.
Yeah.
And so we're not looking at these young people just to be looking for employment. And naturally, the framework of mind of these young people is different from our generation, for example.
Why is it different?
Because they understand that you're not empowered as long as you're still flighting your CV around. You have to do something. And we've seen
Are you sure that's what the generation understands? The generation that spends their days sitting under bridges and drinking illegal substances. Are we sure we're speaking about the same Zimbabwe?
I think
because
so.
A lot of young people here would want to do that. They would want to start something. They'd want to innovate, but they end up selling old clothes. They end up selling tomatoes because they simply cannot afford to start something in the career options, for example, that you present.
These students don't have the STEM skills. That's why when we talk about STEM, we're not just talking about you doing sciences. You have to have technology and science at the foundation for whatever form of learning you're doing. I am confident, and I've seen a lot of our young people with the right STEM skills, programming, doing apps, starting their own businesses. And so, yes, I admit that we've got many more students who have not have opportunities, who may be doing the things you've mentioned. But the few that have the skills and the opportunities have been doing great. And I think we must applaud and make sure that we encourage that.
All right, we do applaud and encourage the work that the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development is doing through STEM. But we still must ask these pertinent questions that once we've been skilled, and once we've been educated through STEM, then what? This is My Future. We'll be right back. Welcome back to My Future. I'm Ruveniko. We're in studio this evening with Engineer Ganda, representing the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development. Thank you again. So we're going to wrap up now. This is our last segment here, but there's a number of aspects that I wanted to touch on around the more holistic view.
Yes.
I was reading the Washington Post, and there was an article that was published about 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
Here's what it said. Our culture has drawn an artificial line between art and science, one that did not exist for innovators like Leonardo da Vinci and Steve Jobs. Leonardo's curiosity and passion for painting, writing, engineering, and biology helped him triumph in both art and science. His study of anatomy and dissections of corpses enabled his incredible drawings of the human figure. When introducing the iPad, Jobs, who dropped out of college but continued to audit calligraphy classes, declared it's in Apple's DNA that technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with liberal arts, married with humanities, that yields us the results that makes our hearts sing. My question to you, Engineer Ganda, is in this push towards saying STEMatize your future, take on maths, physics, chemistry, and biology at A level, what are you saying for the young person's mind? Are you saying that focus on that alone? Are you also saying for now we are annihilating those that studied other subjects? What do we say in light of this as well?
Well, I think our thrust is totally in agreement with what you've just read. The current campaign, the A-Level 2016 STEM campaign, is targeted to increase enrollment in the natural sciences. But Ruveniko, you want to know that of the 19,000 students that went to university last year, only 2,500 were in STEM areas. So we have done very well in the arts, and this must be acknowledged. So we are not necessarily annihilating the other. No, we are simply saying the other was weaker, and so we need to bring it up. But in terms of fusion of science into arts, I agree with you, and I agree with what you've just read. That's why when we've been putting across messages of STEM, we're talking about STEM not only in terms of teaching of the pure sciences, which we're talking about in this program, but in terms of making sure that we STEMatize the arts, we STEMatize the commercials, we STEMatize the humanities. That's what we're talking about. And we will be giving very clear message around that very soon. But for this campaign, we're just saying to increase the pool of students taking science at A level, to make sure that we don't have the 13% that had been taking sciences as of last year. It's not good enough. It doesn't do us any good. So this is really the reason. But otherwise, we acknowledge the importance of the commercials and the arts, and they're very important. And for you to be able to do science and commercialize technology, for example, you need the other sectors.
You do, which is why I worry that there's no big push toward balance in this campaign, in this push towards STEMatizing. You know, it's, for me, doesn't seem holistic, not just because I'm an arts person, but because I would like to know that we're not going to have to troubleshoot another problem 10, 20, 30 years down the line. When we've now created all these scientists, then the arts sector is suffering.
I don't think so. In my own view, which I think is well informed, is that when you've got the other 13%, you're trying to push it up. We are not in any way. What we are not doing here is we're trying to make sure that we don't have a shortage of scientists like we have, and having undersubscribed programs at university, which is the current situation. And so no one should be under any illusion that we are not saying that the arts people are not important. They are very important.
You're pushing it up, but you're not playing fair, you know. You're saying we'll push it up by giving you free education.
I mean,
who's going to say no? I
think there is an issue of equity here, Ruveneko. When you're not equal, I think this is, if you're saying something, we're doing it equally. You are saying if you give the other 50, you give the other 50. But we're saying we already had the others at 13%. So in order to make sure that there is balance, you want to push the other up, isn't it? And this is what we're essentially doing. And I don't see anything that should make anyone worried, essentially. Because you're talking about improving 13% maybe and we have made it clear that we want to increase it to maybe 20, 25%, for a start, and then trying to make sure that there's balance. And you can never balance. If two things were already not balanced, you can never balance by applying the same effort and resource.
So is it safe to say then, if all these students that enroll for A-level for STEM subjects, that they're going to take up STEM subjects at university and they're going to graduate as scientists and engineers and doctors? Is it, because that for me doesn't really finish the full picture. They're going to do their A-levels and then what?
Well, they do their A-levels, and of course they find a program of their choice. And you want to know that if someone takes sciences at A-level, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will only be restricted to going and doing natural sciences related or STEM careers at university. Someone can do sciences and still go and do commercials. All we're saying is we want a good foundation of sciences. And so there is no imbalance in terms of what we're doing, but also in terms of career choices afterwards. The students is open to careers of their choice. And our wish is that they will continue taking STEM right up to university and make sure that they become a global citizen. And we're not disadvantaging anybody, because a student who has got STEM, who is in the STEM career, is globally competitive. They can go and work anywhere. Science is science wherever you go. But the same cannot be said of other fields. And all we're saying is we've got a shortage, let's improve that. And
I worry that we took a model that we know didn't belong to us, in essence, right? It did not come from us. We have seen it happening in other parts of the world. For example, right now, President Barack Obama of the United States has a goal to have 1 million STEM students by 2022, right? That's his goal as the president of the United States. And you look at the economy, you look at the structures, and you look at the opportunities that a country like that offers to young people who are studying these subjects, and it makes sense because they can build a life, have a career in their own country. So my question is, how do we mimic that same model for Zimbabwe? At the beginning of the program, you already attested to the fact that we might lose some students to go and study and seek opportunities elsewhere because they are not the same opportunities in Zimbabwe. So why do we take models that weren't ours and assume they'll work for our society?
No, I don't think the STEM model is a US model.
I'm not saying it's a US model. I'm saying that is not unique to Zimbabwe. I'm saying that we have learnt and seen how it's been working in other countries, right?
But in the US, the problems are totally different from us in terms of STEM. And, when you say that the model, STEM is a global, initiative. All developing countries and developed countries know that you have to go science, technology, engineering, and mathematics for you to develop. And that is given. So we cannot claim that ownership of STEM, neither can the United States claim ownership for it. We are a global community. And all progressive countries at certain points of history make critical decisions. And if the decisions appear like we're copying one another, then be it. But the truth of the matter is that STEM is a global initiative. No country can claim ownership for it.
Yeah, I'm not giving ownership to any country. I'm saying for Zimbabwe to own it and for it to work. Let's complete the picture.
But for us, look at it, Venako. We have looked at the Zimbabwean situation where we have a problem. We have undersubscribed programs at university. Which problem we have said, we have never said that it is the same as the United States. No, it's a Zimbabwean situation. It's Zimbabwe which needs enough doctors. It's Zimbabwe which needs enough engineers. But it's Zimbabwe which needs scientists to innovate and bring solutions that are Zimbabwean.
All right, God willing, this initiative will continue, and we wish the ministry every success in this. STEMatize your future. Find out more on stemstudents.co.zw. I'm Refunds. Thank you again to Engineer Ganda. That's it from us on My Future for tonight. Good night. Be good. If you can't be good, be safe.
Hurry